So welcome to today. I'm Christine.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are Double Defense. We're an all-female New York Rangers podcast, bringing you fun conversation about our New York Rangers, the NHL and hockey, and so much more. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, this is Liz from Double Defense. Please give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram at double_defense_NYR, and our Facebook page, Double Defense.
I don't know what it is about this week, but I have this whole appreciation for how great we look in January. Like we're the three of us are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm really happy about that.
You did not see me last night.
You're glowing, first of all. Sarah's got a glowing face right now too.
I had a really good lunch.
It's the way to kick it off.
It's Friday.
I mean, there was a lot to celebrate. There was certainly a lot to celebrate last night. Sarah, did you manage to watch the recap?
I did.
You mean what we posted on all my pages like 3 times? Like, how could you miss it?
Kudos to you guys. I'm proud of that game. I'm proud for you. Also,
oh my God, so much was going on.
Miller has been on my list for the Rangers since we started this podcast, because otherwise I would not be paying attention. And I'm quite proud right now.
He's come a long way. He had a great season last season. Then the beginning of this season, up until maybe even a month ago, like things were a little bit touch and go. But the last month, he's been on absolute fire.
Him and Fox, I mean, I don't think you see them too much together, or at least it's not highlighted that they're together. But of the highlights I'm seeing when they are together, it's super complimentary, and kudos to you guys. Great game.
See, and the conversion begins.
I mean, I was going to touch on this later in our podcast. But just today, the feedback I've had from my friends, just in general, like no one, I'm not fishing for anything with my friends. I'm either catching up with them or I've run into them or whatever. And they're just like, oh, by the way, your podcast. And they're Edmonton fans, or they're Calgary fans, or they're Toronto fans, or they're Canuck fans, or they're Sens fans. Like they're really not outside those spectrums. And all of them today have just been like, oh, did you watch that Rangers game last night? Did you see the highlights? You must be talking about this. And I was like, well, I'm glad you're talking about it. This excites me a little more. We're making some headway, ladies.
Yes, we are. And for those of you tuning in, we are recording this on Friday afternoon. So it is the day after the Rangers' unbelievably amazing comeback from behind win against the Dallas Stars that included K'Andre Miller tying the game with under a second left, and then Fox scoring an unbelievable goal in overtime. So we are celebrating a lot, and we celebrated very hard last night. And by we, I mean me.
There was so much happening, and it was funny because last night I happened to be texting, messaging. I was kind of active, throughout thing. So some of the guys that are on our page on Instagram have a group, and they were, it was funny how the whole game they were like, so and so sucks, this and suck, and then I think at the end of the game I was like, now you got to take all that back, and so yes. So it's pretty funny, but so much is just happening because we're going to go back as we were kind of talking about before to this delay. We're in California. I'm watching it on center ice. I have about a 2-minute delay. So here I am watching, because before our astronomical, amazing, no quit in New York kind of score with less than a second to go, there was crazy activity center ice in the middle of the game, which I was reading about. And I'm like, what did I miss? And then I didn't miss it. It happened in my delay. Was this huge collision between Gauthier and Blais, right? So
Blais made the biggest hit that he's made all year on his own teammate. That collision, is that the one you're talking about?
It was insane. And then to watch it in slow motion. So I think everything was coming across text first, and then I'm kind of watching it, kind of getting the heads up, in the texting and communication before I can actually see it. And we saw Blake come back, but not Gauthier. And then right after that, VC's like shaking his hand off because he gets hits with the puck. We got Kreider out, and now everyone's like, oh my God, we have no forwards. How are we going to get through the rest of this game? We did. We got through it. I'll say not only did I have the delay, so for everybody listening, here's kind of what transpired. I was like, everyone's talking about stuff, saying how we stink. I'm like, I want my 2 points. I want to break away from, separate ourselves from Washington, bring us closer to the Devils. The Devils, again, we still have a game 2 in hand on the Devils in North Carolina. So we really want to gain on points. We need them to lose. They're not. But Washington, they have a game on us. So I like that. I like that separation now. Now I'm starting to feel a little at ease as long as we continue to.
Yeah, we're pulling away from the pack a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I want 2 points. And then as it started to get to the end, I put it on the NHL app. So I'm kind of watching it more in real time and watching the clock tick down. And we had a couple, penalties at the end both ways, so I was just kind of seeing if anyone was going to score on those. And then it kind of looked like it ended. So I get a text in our group chat, that said, where are you at? Like in your delay.
I was trying to be very diplomatic.
I'm like, I don't know.
You're on a delay. And yeah. I feel like this isn't specific to us. I have a feeling anyone listening who is tuning in, who watches games on television and texts with their friends about the game, somebody's going to be behind somebody. I have a number of friends where they either have to tell me that they're on a delay because I'll start with like the happy emojis or the sad emojis and spoil what's going to come next. But the end of the game was so exciting. And I knew Christine was like 2 minutes behind. So I was just carefully, how long a delay are you on exactly? She's like, I think it's about 2 minutes. I'm like, okay. And then at one point, I think the NHL app was wrong. So you're checking the score and it said end of the third, 0-1.
Yep. I got.
And you're like, oh, they lost. I'm like,
yeah, I was like, I'm cheating. That was exactly the test. I'm like, I'm cheating. I know they lost. And she's like, Liz is like, and then all of a sudden I read that, I looked up. And then if you haven't seen that moment 1,000 times, like we have already, in fact, I don't know if you saw my response, but I already accidentally played a full volume in my office. so I have watched it and it just gets better. I can't get enough of the emotion and how high Panarin jumps on that. So yeah, there was a glitch in the app. Someone else had posted it on Instagram as well, where it didn't update it. And so it did, if we're looking at that, it looked like they lost. So
what a nice surprise.
I was nervous. I was nervous too when they scored. I'm like, did they lose? I mean, is there going to be a challenge? I was kind of nervous at first for a couple seconds until I really saw that bird's eye view angle, which we hate most of the time, but was really good.
There's been a couple of times that you've been at the game, Christine, and I think to myself, like, oh, I wonder if she's on a delay too. And then I remember, like, you're at the game.
I know.
You're probably experiencing it first.
Can we also just say though, like you guys physically, like in location wise, are in the same state. You're not truly that far apart. Is it not bananas, the delay?
I have no idea. I would think that we would know how television works.
Well,
but we do not.
Liz watches this on a different feed. So
I'm getting it. Yeah, I'm getting it through ESPN Plus most of the time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think a regular like TNT is more live than what I'm paying for.
And I know we've already talked about TNT. And if I didn't express my frustrations during the Winter Classic, here we go. But I'm with you, Christine. I sympathized a million times. Yeah. During that feed, it was like the 90 most painful minutes of my 2023, and it had only just begun.
Yeah, so those are and my thing too is it doesn't appear to be consistent, with trying to keep up with everything. Most of the people I think that I'm seeing, boards are in the New York area. They're more on the East Coast, and they're getting things real time. So I had a bunch of friends, and so that was the thing. I was texting. I had a bunch of friends at the game. I was texting with someone playing poker while they're watching the game, and so we're kind of. I actually had a lot of communication, a lot of dialogue going on back and forth throughout the game last night, which was really fun. And then the outcome. It's still stunning, and definitely was something that was talked about on the major networks, ESPN and NHL. It was good. So now kind of go into the stats where we are now. It's just funny. We've played 43 games, might be off, 44. And we've kind of had a really good record in our last 20,
we since the helmet throw, since the Trouba helmet throw, we are 13-2-2, which is unfreaking believable. I'm not going to credit it to the helmet throw because my feelings about Trouba as captain. However, there was something that turned around for sure. And even just going back through some of our old texts, as early as Or as late as like early December, we were talking about how it was kind of a dumpster fire of a season. It was really tough. Things were really not looking good for an amazing group of players. We're just not delivering. Gallant's job was on the line. People were talking, heads were rolling, and here we are.
To the couch coaches.
Exactly. But here we are, 6 weeks later, and they have absolutely turned the season around. And if last night was any indication, this is a team that can absolutely make a run for the cup this year. Absolutely. If they can fight back the way that they've been fighting back in some of these games, there's nothing that's going to keep them from making that full run.
I agree. Even before that throw, that we did have a nice little streak of games too, that really kind of adds to where we sit right now. So we're right on the tail of two teams that have had a good lucky streak of games, but we're right there. So I always just generally laugh too when, again, we've never really fallen below the halfway mark. Yeah, to be as I kind of say so, and that's always been good. That's where we want to sit, because right now you just got to get into those playoffs. It becomes a whole new ball game once you're there. They're still working things out. This is where, and I was kind of chatting about last night, this is where I get nervous with injuries. And the joke I kind of in my own self was, we don't need to be injuring ourselves, in each other and our own team, which that's
well, 100%, Blay. Talking to you.
Oh, he's already been traded by everybody. So
yes.
And hopefully Kreider comes back. Hopefully I know they have him listed as day-to-day right now. It was perfect timing. I just got my brand new jersey, and it was a Kreider jersey. So just in time for him to not be playing. I do want to just make a kind request. If New York Ranger fan just passing through on Archive of Our Own is listening, somebody really wants to know how Kreider was comforted by Mika last night after that big win that he was not a part of. So if this author is listening, please do me a favor. I would very much like to know the details of that.
Was this part of your dream last night?
Yes, it was. But it turned out that my dream was real. I dreamt that we tied the game with under a second to go and then won in overtime. It was absolutely, really, really what a stunning game. And what's very exciting, I think, from where we're sitting, is that there have been so many games lately where you can go, that was the best one of the season. That was the best one of the season. This one, I think, was the best one of the season.
Oh, this is the best one I've seen in a long time. I think someone else was talking about, like, one of the guys on the chat was saying that he was talking to his dad to say, like, is this the best game you've ever seen? And his dad said no, but for him it was a come from behind. It was a 2-2 game against the Devils. And with, I think they scored with 0.3 seconds to go. So I don't know when that was. They did kind of put some of these great, like, under, this is like the third or the fourth best one ever, or the closest one. So again, got to stop and realize we're breaking our own little records. There's always little milestones that we're hitting, and we continue to do that, which is good. So these, you never put them, never put these guys out. The other thing to kind of bring up is we've done these kind of come from behind. I saw somebody post that they kind of walked away at the end. One guy was like, I walk away, and not only did we tie it up, but we won. I'm like, it was that quick. And then some woman was saying how she kind of has fallen asleep on the games and she keeps waking up and missing all the good things. I'm like, well, that's what you get. The other thing too is like how people throw us out when we're down. And that was a big talk. Like, I'm listening to Steve Alcat kind of talk about it. We're just in general, forget the Rangers. We're seeing more people score. And he was really kind of emphasizing that these 2-goal leads are not safe anywhere.
No, definitely not. Most dangerous lead in hockey.
Yeah. And so we're seeing more of that. The other thing, and we can continue to kind of follow, I was talking about with my son the other day, there seems to be a lot of overtimes. I feel like it's more than normal. If you look down the stats, you'll see that several of these teams have 6, 7, 8, up to 9 overtime losses. And actually looking at those, the record is 18 in a season.
Wow.
So look at all these teams that are on track, as we kind of halfway through these things that, are on track to kind of meeting or breaking this kind of record in overtime game.
Can we talk about that Minnesota game for a second? Like, oh my God, I haven't seen a game like that for at least a team that I follow in quite a long time. And it was so refreshing. And even though I'm like a major Fleury fan, just Fleury himself, not his team, just his style, like New York, the game itself was just incredible. But the overtime
shootout,
That
Yeah.
shootout was
So I
just
missed that. So that I got the play-by-plays. So I was like Goofy's Kitchen for that.
right.
So I watched the first period. I listened to the second period, and then we were kind of following it while we were eating dinner. That was crazy.
Oh
So
my God. If we could talk about hockey, just the season overall, all teams considered for the whole year at this point, honestly, I have to say that's a top 3 game, if not a top 2. I really, those moments, I haven't seen anything like it in quite a while.
So let's talk about that game, because one of the things I missed, and it also kind of goes into another topic. There's so much to talk about. I can't
So much to talk about
handle
today.
it. Well, I didn't see it, but I heard it, and I heard anger, frustration in the penalty. So there was that penalty called during the Minnesota game where there was a trip and an embellishment. So they got called on a trip and we got called on an embellishment, and it was frustrating the announcers because how could it be both? If it was a trip, it was a trip. How could you trip and fall and embellish what actually happened?
I mean,
if you watch the replay, it looks very much like both of those things totally happened. Laugh was he went over, but he went over kind of late. It's interesting. I haven't seen an embellishment call in a really long time.
I also think, and I mean, we've talked about this in our texting group, but we can spend an hour at least talking about all the calls and weird.
Oh, we have
weird calls, but all the weird things that have been called this year in the reffing in general. I mean, it's a whole separate podcast on its own.
I mean, last night even with Ottinger, he got called on a delay.
For taking his helmet off.
That was really weird.
There have been some really weird ones. The embellishment, that delay of game. What was the one we saw the other night? It was cupping your hand around the puck.
Yeah, so closing your hand on the puck. That was about a week or two ago. And then
Christine texts, she goes, somebody's going through the hockey rule book again. The old hockey rule book again.
So, I feel like they're playing a bingo game right now.
The dive bar conference that we referenced over text, I think this was before the Christmas break. We said, I mean, obviously they met for a conference. They met in a dive bar. They got the book out, and then
what haven't we called in a while?
I'll bet you.
Just before Christmas, and then over the Christmas break, because I know we texted about it a lot during those times. It was all these random calls we have not seen in literally years. Like, it's been a long time. So why?
Yeah. There's a couple, again, I'll have to really kind of analyze the embellishment trip thing, because I agree that doesn't really make any sense. It's a trip. If you're embellishing your trip, but you're still tripping, why should that be a penalty? There's been, who's the goalie, where they're getting called out for bumping the net, and
Matt Murray in Toronto.
Yes. Yeah. So Matt Murray. So that's not good. Some of those are plays along with embellishment that are made to make the refs look bad, and so when you kind of start seeing, and right now there's camera angles on anything, there's replays on everything.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're trying to do that again, this call on Ottinger too, so I think they're kind of tight on those things now that goalies can be, a little devious too, and they're catching them. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm glad it kind of didn't go against us. so some of them haven't, and I'm not even calling out the ones where we feel we shouldn't be called on. We're used to that, where they play through that, and I feel that in general they usually prevail on stuff. And so with that said too, we didn't capitalize on any power play opportunities yesterday.
That was my only negative of that game. I felt like there were some real good opportunities that they didn't score, that they probably should have. The power play has not been looking super strong over the last couple of games, but they've still managed to pull it out.
Yeah, here's my thought. And luckily, I like when people agree with me. So, as much as I love Mika, I think they're really trying to find those little home office positions, take the really hard shots. And with that, they're just missing opportunities. So when I'm watching it be open, when they should just pass and shoot, they're not. And the hard shots are really going for those, those hard wrist and slap shots, from these points in particular. Just go for those rebounds, back up, have your defense back up right away when the shot's made, and just go for it, especially on power plays.
Yeah, my worry is that they're a little predictable in power plays, and I think that it's very easy for other teams to kind of read what's going to happen. Like, of course they're going to pass it to Mika, and of course he's going to go for a big one-timer. Like, that's always going to happen. But they've been finding, people like Panarin, who's an amazing stick handler, he's able to keep things very fresh and keep the other team guessing. And then Fox last night with,
This backhand.
that backhand was just amazing. I mean, those are the times that they're actually breaking through. It's not like that same tried and true thing,
No.
which I think used to work, but I think it's a little bit more predictable right now.
Of course it is. It still does work, but don't they do too much. That's my thing. Because it's the same move that other people do too, that seem to make history. So I don't know how it works for all these people. It's like, yeah, they do have the same plays and moves and just stay on them. So it's good to see that. It was a good game last night. I mean, Dallas is in the top of their division. They were talking about that too. We're playing other people from other divisions. We play differently than other people do in other divisions. We do have a more tough, I want to say skill-based kind of play in our division. And I feel like we're kind of a lot more tighter. So were we equivalent last night? Actually, I think we were. And we've talked about that before. Have we been in some of these other divisions, we would be like first place up at the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, this has been a very tight race, and we have some interesting games coming up. So on Sunday, we're playing the Canadians, and then the Blue Jackets. So those teams those should be wins for all intents and purposes. Those should be wins. And then we're playing the Bruins on Thursday, January 19th. That'll be a very interesting game. I think that could be very telling. We'll see what the outcome of that will be.
Bruins lost their first home game last night.
I saw that.
So
that's what a run for the Bruins.
Change is happening. Streaks end and things changed. I mean, they're still doing really well. That'll be a good game too. I'm definitely curious. I'm happy about Sunday because the Canadians play the Islanders the Saturday night. So oh, and by the way too, I don't know I enjoyed last night because I flipped it over to the Islander game. And there I was watching these two women correspondents talk about, and they were basically just justifying like how the team really did try, and they just kind of ran out of gas. And we're just coming off of flipping the channel from our like last second, like you just don't stop till it's over. And so it was pretty funny because they were just literally, I think earlier in the year, someone was talking about excuses. We don't make excuses. I have not seen excuses from our team. Or even announcers, when we're talking about the game, they own up to it. Like they just didn't play well. They didn't do this. There's no excuses. So that was pretty interesting too, to kind of flip in and see. Are you watching any of the other games? Like, are you guys catching any of the other games lately?
I've been watching Calgary this week. I mean, nothing overly exciting. I mean, I really haven't paid much attention to Pittsburgh this week. That's on me. It's just been my schedule. But Calgary and New York, I have been paying attention to. A lot of excitement between both. I mean, New York's way ahead from a conference and a playoff standpoint than Calgary is. But even the commentating, like, let's talk about that for a second. I much more enjoy watching a well-commentated game than, even if the teams are playing well, if the commentating's great, like, you have my attention almost even more.
So good. Watch
coming from where we were at the end of October, early November. It's a nicer conversation.
So part of my enjoyment in watching that replay, and I've talked about this before, I'm going to keep on saying it. When we score and we celebrate, there's genuine happiness and
so happy.
Oh, I want to say like surprise, but not really. I mean, they're doing a job, they're professionals, but they're genuinely just happy about every goal they score. And so Panarin flew like 2 feet in the air to jump on Keandre. And then the same thing happened when they scored overtime. He just ran over and just barrel rolled over onto Fox. So to watch that and to hear the crowd, because some of my friends that are there at the games, one in particular that was there is a high school friend of mine. And every time, he's always like, well, hopefully they'll win. Hopefully this. And I'm like, it's never over till it's over. And so I did that, I did that last time when we were, because people were like, hopefully you guys stayed to the end of the game. And they
so
did.
So one of the things I heard, I think it might have been on the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. They were talking about how nobody left last night. Everybody was there, and that it felt as electric as a playoff game. That Madison Square Garden was just on fire.
It looked that way. Even in the replays, like, it looked on fire last night.
Yeah, it was so good. I mean, I'll tell you something. We were with Minnesota, so we had a turnaround. Like, if you call back to the game, if you watch the game when they retired Lundqvist's jersey, I was actually at that game. We actually scored at the very last second, but they waved the goal off. So we had that opportunity, and that crowd was not happy. That's why I was nervous when the NHLF said we hadn't won. I was didn't even catch any lead on the text. And then I saw it and I'm like, wait a minute, did something happen? I mean, because NHL should be right, but they were wrong. And so it took them a minute to kind of catch it up and update it, because otherwise that crowd would have just lost their minds. But they were so loud. And if you kind of keep following it into that replay of the overtime, the chanting for, let's go Rangers was pretty much the loudest I've ever heard. I'm glad that I had friends there, because it's just those opportunities, some of these games that was one to be at. So that was amazing. I'm glad, and it was definitely one to watch. So I'm glad I was in it to the end.
Yeah, and now we can just. I'm going to predict that the highlights of this game are going to be one of the most watched from the year, especially because the highlights were in such a short amount of time.
Oh yeah. You can put the
whole thing within like 3 minutes.
It was great. I have more gray hairs because of it. Yes. But that's okay. Easily fixed.
I'm watching those highlights, and for me, I think Dallas has always been one of those teams for somebody to talk about, but generally, I think most years they're just never someone that like I watched to the end. And then that got me thinking, like, who are the players from Dallas that have really ever got my attention? And I made a list, and the list isn't even really, it doesn't really to reference. Dallas overall is just one of those teams that it's a qualifier. They kind of get you to that point. They've never made it to the very end, right? Or am I wrong?
I think they made it to the finals. I was looking this up last night, and then I've completely forgotten.
And the players, I'll just recap while we're looking, that have really stood out for me for Dallas over the years: Mike Modano, Ed Belfour, Tyler Seguin, obviously, Ribeiro, Joe Nieuwendyk, Jason Spezza. But they've had excellent players. Are they number one top tier players all the time? No, but they've had players that certainly have gotten them to very close to that point, to that end game.
They've won the Western Conference 3 times and the Stanley Cup in 99.
Once. Okay.
Once. Yeah.
But they've always been that team, right? They're always so close.
Yep. They played well. I kind of remember a few of those games.
To me, at least, they're never really in that top 3 conversation. But just that game last night, it just lit them up in a way for me that I haven't remembered in a long time.
You know what Ben wants to do? So Jamie Benn is the captain of Dallas, and he spells his last name is the same as Ben's first name, and it's spelled the same way. So Ben has always wanted to get a Rangers jersey that just has Ben on it, and then wear it to a Dallas Stars game at Madison Square Garden just to confuse people. We'll have to make that happen one year.
There's some like sports psychology there. I like that.
Just to confuse people.
But then it only works if you sit in a group of Dallas fans.
Yeah, like right in front of them.
Go find them.
Right in front of them.
Yes.
Right in front of the bench.
There.
Right in front of the
that was our talk last night too, because the Ducks are playing Jersey tonight, right?
Oh yeah. Just to go heckle them.
Yeah.
Let's go heckle them. Too bad I can't look. Too bad I know where their entrance is. I could just get there early and go and taunt them. That would be fun. I'm gonna do that one day.
I definitely thought about it.
Not too late.
I'm still recovering. I just want to give everybody.
You never know. Anaheim might beat them.
They might. Hey, they beat the Rangers. When the Rangers were in town. So anything can happen, and I like those little upsets, especially when it's against teams that we need to lose. So we are all Ducks fans. We are all Ducks fans tonight.
So how was it yesterday, giving blood and then being weak?
Yeah, I'm going to
having all this adrenaline coming through.
Yes, Liz, please give us your highlights of last night.
I will.
Was it quick enough?
My PSA is donate blood if you can. 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives. They do very specifically tell you do not drink for 24 hours, which I generally ignore. But
how did that go?
Did not go well, especially after a game like that. Needed to have some celebrations. It did not go great. I will tell you that. I'm definitely hurting, but it is a nice thing to do. And if you are able to, please donate if you can. And then listen to them when they say not to drink.
So the pairings that I've been putting up there for this year so far is trying to keep it dry and light as we recover from like last year's celebrations. So it's been more energy drinks. It's trying to kind of find that balance of stuff. I think last night I was like, add shots as needed. So I think I like how it's somewhat kind of appropriate and just kind of giving that energy vibe. I'm like that, I like the fact that somebody's drinking Red Bulls before these games, which is great. So I like that the pairings are kind of working too. So have to see what kind of a Canadian energy booster they may have.
I think we might have to do another brunch drink because I think it's a 2 p.m. start over here for us.
That was really good. So.
I think one of the issues we're going to run into, because we have been talking about, where can fans go to watch a Ranger game, especially if in a city that the Rangers are not in, especially on a Sunday. And when this time of the year, everything's taken over by football. So I don't know if we're gonna
although
be able
we're
to find
winding
anywhere
down the times, we can look at it. Although I have to say, I want to elaborate on that because we were able to kind of meet last week at your place. And a side note is we took the dog for a walk around the block after the game was over. And so this is like, we're kind of a little Ranger parade. So
we are. Yeah. So Christine's in all of her Ranger stuff. I'm in all my Ranger stuff. And then the dog has a Rangers a bandana. So like 2 cars stopped and they would honk and they were like, let's go Rangers. Just in the neighborhood.
I was like, oh my God. That's awesome. Here. That was fantastic, So the fact that there was people in the neighborhood that knew who they were, not only knew they were, but they rooted, and they were, bold enough to kind of let us know that it was good. So that was pretty funny. So we did have the little celebratory 1-point parade.
I should go borrow someone's dog. Dylan Dubé's parents live around the corner from me, and he plays for Calgary. And if I borrowed somebody's dog and I timed it right, like his parents are always outside. So if I just did that, we could at least maybe get a selfie or something.
People love dogs in little outfits.
Absolutely. I'll work on that. That's a goal before the end of the season.
We need to send you some dog swag.
And then
Can't the cat wear a little jersey?
I know. I was like, can't you walk your cat?
Oh my God. My cat's my cat. I have words for my cat right now. She's not being cooperative. That's the word I will use. That's positive. She's not being cooperative in the fan gear, because I could certainly put her in some Team Canada, some Pittsburgh Penguins, also some Steelers, although we're out now. But yeah, she's not cooperating.
All right.
But I think from a hockey perspective, and especially for our podcast, I could certainly angle this a lot better. So let me work on that.
Well, that's a good segue into what people are listening. And I think I have a couple of pocketed pictures for dressing up our animals. I think we were talking about doing this earlier offline, but I'll put it out there and ask people to kind of, if people are listening, get a heads up, get pictures of your animals. I want to see what kind, besides dogs, especially. I dressed up a couple of cats. So I don't have any myself right now, but I do volunteer a lot of my time at the local pet shelter, which allows me to dress them up and snuggle and play and do all kinds of things. I've done that. And I did it before. I have to refine those pictures, but I kind of ended up with a bunch of kittens that I had kind of come across as I was walking around the neighborhood during COVID, and we kind of rescued them. So I had them all running around in my apartment. There were 4 of them. I named them. Well, one was a little black one. I named him Blackie Clawless, of course, but the other 3 were these cream colored flame point Siamese kitty cats. And one little girl, I named her Mika Sabana Cat. I had Artemi Panarin, and then I had Henrik Lundqvist. And they were so cute. So, and we did it's in my Instagram. We did a little fashion show, or a little, little Ranger, promo. I put them in my they were teeny too. So I could put them in my purse. So I took pictures of all of them with Ranger stuff. And they were all adopted the following day. So my friends were like, how could you give up and they had little crooked tails, like little hockey stick tails. So it's really cute. So I'm bound to find an animal and dress it up if needed. So, but to everybody else who has animals, I've seen them throughout, the boards and stuff. It's super cute. So that'll be a fun kind of January going into February kind of thing for to see people's pets, make it a little, I'd love to kind of gather them up and let us kind of vote on who we like and then put it out there on the page, which would be kind of fun.
I think the good thing, one of the things that I think we were doing early on in the season is asking for cute animal pictures to make us feel better about when the Rangers would blow a lead. Thankfully, that actually has not happened in a very long time. I think we kind of postponed this, but might as well do all the celebrations at the same time. So bring out the animal pics for sure.
Feel free to post, like, if you need more smiles, here's more. Just keep doing it, because if you can get a picture of Boshy's face, that's, I have all these pictures I was trying to take of him, and he's just not looking at me.
Difficult. He's
I'm on the floor. I'm upside down.
He told me
he's
I had
like,
to call
no.
He said I had to call his agent if he wants us to do a shout out.
I can't wait for my own shot with Boshy. Maybe we can do our own fan gear together.
It's funny because a lot of times some of the players in hockey will come out with their players and pets calendars. I've seen those before. I think there's recent footage of like dog races on the ice with the players' pets and stuff. A couple of the teams have adopted animals that are kind of represent the team. I think the Rangers had one, but I haven't seen it lately.
Have you seen the ice skating? Have you seen the dog that ice skates? It is, I think they live in Vegas. It's not like an official Vegas.
Yeah.
But
no, it's
the dog
the dog
wears,
comes out on the
he wears little ice skates and he comes out and he skates. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's like a retriever, right?
Yeah.
I would totally watch something with like sexy hockey players and their animals, like whatever. I can do that.
Well, you guys have the avenues for that. Work on it. Let's get that going.
CBC, I got it.
Done. Yeah. I feel like I hope somebody from CBC one day listens to our podcast because every episode we come up with something brilliant for them.
I know.
CBC, if you're listening,
we got our receipts.
Did you ever watch that show? I can't even think of what it's called, but it had like Ty Domi figure skating. Do you remember that? No?
No.
Was it the one based on like The Cutting Edge, which was the greatest movie of all time?
Yes. I love The Cutting Edge.
I love that movie.
We should quote that in many of our meetings.
I think The Cutting Edge is probably like one of the beginning like hockey memories for me, like just getting to know the sport through that movie.
That's so funny.
On that note, ladies, what a fabulous week. We have so much to look forward to in the next couple of days. Please join us next week. We'll be recapping the Rangers' next run of hopefully great wins, weird penalties, and everything in between. Thank you all.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see the return of all our injured players, and we'll get a better idea of kind of where they are too. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye out for this week too. So let's all keep that high going from last night. If you feel down or out of sorts or in the middle of the rain or the snow or anything, just replay that because it's just the best moment I have seen in so long. So enjoy and keep enjoying it until we meet again.
The fact that all my friends are messaging me or many people I haven't talked to in a while going, well, I guess you guys are going to just talk about this in your podcast today or tomorrow or next week. That's telling me that we're making an impact and we're resonating. So that makes me happy.
And step one of our conversion is complete.
We have to move on to phase 2 now. Christine, we'll talk offline before New York. It'll be like a sorority hazing.
It's going to be challenging, to kind of sneak it like a Pittsburgh fan in with us to arrange a game.
I think what it is, and acknowledging that some of my friends are engaging, is that it's the Canadian thing. It's the love of the game. It's not so much the team. It's the style and the hockey that's being played. That to me is what I'm guessing is getting everyone's attention right now. And I think that's why I have so much to comment on, regardless of who's playing. It's just the game. The passion is there and it's exciting and
it's good. I hope that we see some surprise action from the guys that the people are complaining about the most, because that's kind of my favorite is when they start off a game yelling at, about somebody. Miller was one of them before, and all of a sudden he'd score. And I'm like, keep talking, because then there's receipts out there and they don't really have anywhere to go to backtrack, on what they're saying. Right now, everybody's still kind of WTFing the whole last night play and they're still stunned. It's fun to see some of these people just stunned for words, and I'm enjoying that as well. So keep an eye on other games as well, but our focus, I think there's a lot of pressure to see how they're going to play against the Canadians on Sunday. So we do have a goal to kind of find a place that can watch it, that we can squeeze in between football games. So that's our next mission. So local places, if you're listening, we're coming for you to kind of find a place that we can, kind of gather some more, LA people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, but we're on a mission. We're on it. We're coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great week, everybody.
See you next week.